I want to talk to you once again about the sword of Peter. It's clear to me that Jesus was not establishing a doctrine when he told Peter to put the sword up. Let's go over this again. We have in Luke 22, Jesus tells him, he says, I told you at first you went out with nothing. He says, now I'm telling you to buy a sword. Because, and he goes there, because I'm going to be numbered with the transgressors. And Mark chapter 15 tells us that being numbered with the transgressors was when he was crucified amongst the thieves. Now, when Jesus was arrested in the garden, that is covered in all four Gospels. But let's look at what we are told in the different Gospels. Now, we know that what Jesus did, everything that Jesus did was not covered in the Gospel because he had 3 years of ministry, and the Gospels are very short. But we know, and we were told, that if everything Jesus did was written down, the world wouldn't be able to contain the books. So the Gospels give us some different perspective. But we do have this event covered in all four Gospels. We have the fact that the servant's ear was cut off covered in all four Gospels. But we don't have a conversation with Peter covered in all four Gospels. In one Gospel, Jesus does not even address the disciples at all. He starts talking to the crowd. He said, why have you come out against me with swords and staves as though I was a thief? Or something like that. Then one, he says simply, allow this to happen. In remaining two Gospels, Jesus says in one point, he says, hey, put up your sword. He says, shall I not drink the cup? Now in Matthew, we have a more detailed covering of it. Now he says to Peter, he says, put your sword up. And he goes on to say, he says, who takes the sword shall perish by the sword. And he does not say who lives by the sword. That's been made up. You can't get that out of that. Now, what's the point here? Once he says we have a crowd coming out and they have swords and they have staves, they're going to arrest Jesus. And Jesus, it is part of the plan that he be arrested. He says to Peter, put your sword up. He says, he who takes the sword shall perish by the sword. And he immediately says, can I not deliver myself? Could I not call the angels? What's the message here? The message here is, he just says, Peter, put your sword back up. Peter had the sword. He had told him previously to buy a sword. The point is, if you fight now, Peter, if you try to deliver me now, you will die now. That was all it was. That was all it was. Was nothing more significant than that. If you try to fight now, you will die now. He says, can I not deliver my own self, Peter? If I need to do that, if I want to do that, put the sword up. And I think it's very important that the other Gospels, if here we find a doctrine being established that we have to be pacifists, then the other Gospel would have covered it. And in some cases, they don't even cover it at all. Well, really just two Gospels even cover the sword at all, even though all of them cover the fact that the high priest's servant's ear was cut off. Point was, there was no doctrine established here. He said, Peter, put your sword up. I am going to be arrested now. And what's going to happen to me is what has been written about me. But some people have blown that way out of proportion because they want to establish some doctrine. There's no problem with going armed. Jesus never had, Peter had the sword. He had the sword, I guess, the whole time. Jesus never had a problem with the sword. Never had a problem with it throughout the whole ministry because there is no problem. Now think about that. Rightly divide the word of truth.